Let me tell you a story that has been whispered in a small European town for over a century. It's a story that if true changes everything we know about time, fate, and the very thin line that separates our present from our future. This is the story of the mirror that shows what is yet to come. It all begins in 1912, in a quiet village near Krakow, Poland. In the home of an elderly woodcarver named Adrian Nowak, there hung a strange and beautiful mirror. It was tall, narrow, and framed with heavy dark oak. The villagers would say that it was crafted by Adrian's own grandfather, a man said to be obsessed with a strange idea, that time wasn't a straight line, but a continuous circle, folding back on itself. For generations, the mirror sat in the exact same corner of their house, a silent observer. But no one, not even Adrian, truly knew its secret. Not until his daughter Lena made a discovery that would send a chill down her spine. It was a cold, rainy evening. Lena had just returned home from the market, soaked through and feeling annoyed. She stepped into the main room, shaking water from her coat, and happened to glance at the mirror. She froze. In the reflection, she wasn't holding her basket full of groceries. Instead, she was holding a large bouquet of white lilies. The problem was, she didn't have any flowers. She looked down at her empty hands, then looked back into the mirror. The lilies were still there. Fresh, white, their petals still glistening with raindrops. She ran to her father, her face pale with fear, and tried to explain what she had seen. Adrian didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss her wild story. Instead, he leaned in and whispered something that chilled her even more than the rain. "You saw them too, didn't you?" The next morning, Lena walked to town trying her best to forget the strange vision. But right in front of the bakery, a young man she'd never seen before stopped her. He was holding a bouquet of white lilies, the exact same flowers from her reflection in the mirror. He handed them to her, a little shy, and said, "Someone dropped these by the river. I think they might be for you." Lena didn't know what to say. It wasn't possible. The reflection had come true, down to the last detail. From that day forward, Lena began observing the mirror, watching it carefully, almost obsessively, and what she saw over the next few months would change her life forever. Sometimes, she would see herself in the reflection wearing clothes she didn't own. A few days later, a traveling merchant would gift her that very same dress. Sometimes, she would see herself talking to people she had never met. A week later, those strangers would move into the village. Sometimes, she saw herself crying, for reasons she couldn't yet understand. The mirror never showed a grand, sweeping vision. It only offered glimpses, small, fleeting pieces of her future, usually just a day or two ahead. But every single time, without fail, the future it showed came true. The mirror quickly became both a blessing and a curse. It was a guide, but also a source of constant anxiety. Then, one morning, she saw something truly terrifying. In the reflection, she saw herself running. She was panicked, covered in dust and ash. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably, her face pale with terror. In the reflection behind her, thick black smoke filled the sky, and she could hear the faint, frantic ringing of the village bells. She tried to warn everyone. She told her neighbors. She pleaded with the village elder. She even begged her father to believe her, but no one did. They thought her imagination was running wild, until the very next night. A powerful thunderstorm rolled over the village, and a bolt of lightning struck the town's old, dry granary. A massive fire erupted, sending smoke and embers into the night sky, exactly like the reflection had shown. The bells began to ring in alarm. Thanks to the mirror's warning, Lena and her father escaped their home just in time, unharmed. But many of their neighbors weren't so lucky, and several homes were lost in the blaze. After that night, the mirror became infamous. Word of the future mirror spread like the fire itself. People from nearby villages began traveling to their small house, begging for a chance to look into it. They hoped to see their own futures, to find answers to their deepest questions, to get a glimpse of their destinies. But the mirror was selective. It didn't show everyone something. For most people, it was just an ordinary piece of glass. It only revealed its visions to a chosen few, those who were somehow connected to it, though no one understood how or why. Then came the night that everything changed. The night the mirror showed Lena the most frightening vision of all. She looked into the glass and saw herself lying on the ground. She was unconscious, or maybe worse. A dark, shadowy figure stood over her, holding something metallic that glinted in the dim light. There was blood on the floor beside her, and her eyes in the reflection were open, but lifeless. Terrified beyond words, she ran to her father and begged him, pleaded with him, to destroy the mirror. She told him it was a curse, a harbinger of death, but Adrian refused. "The future must be known," he said, his voice firm. "Knowledge is our protection." But Lena didn't believe that anymore. The mirror had shown her own demise. That very same night, she decided she had to escape. She packed a small bag while her father slept and slipped out into the stormy darkness. But a fierce blizzard had rolled in, blocking the roads with snow and ice. Defeated and freezing, she had no choice but to turn back. Her heart pounded as she crept back into the house, soaked and shivering. When she entered the living room, she glanced at the mirror one last time. But it showed her something new, something completely unexpected. It wasn't her own lifeless body. It was her father, Adrian, crying. He was alone, and in the reflection, the mirror behind him was shattered into 1,000 pieces. In that single heart-stopping moment, she understood everything. The mirror wasn't showing her a murder. It was showing her what would happen if she left. The shadowy figure wasn't an attacker. It was her father, finding her after she had collapsed from the freezing cold outside their home. The metallic object was his lantern, and the blood was from her own fall on the icy ground. The mirror had never been a curse. All along, it had been a warning. It wasn't trying to scare her. It was trying to save her. So Lena stayed. She never tried to run again. A week later, a strange crack appeared in the mirror's glass, snaking its way from top to bottom. No one had touched it. It was as if its energy, its purpose, had finally been fulfilled. The reflections faded, and its mysterious power disappeared forever. Lena lived a long and peaceful life in that village, and before she passed away, she wrote a simple note and nailed it to the back of the old mirror's oak frame. The note said, "The future is not meant to be feared, only prepared for today." That cracked mirror still exists, hidden away in a private collection somewhere in Europe. And those who have been lucky enough to see it say that, on very quiet nights, when the moonlight hits the glass just right, a faint reflection can still be seen. Not of the person standing in front of it, but of something or someone who is yet to come. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more mysteries. See you next time.